This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trend in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Judith Mancini today. I apologize for being a little bit late. We had some great thunderstorms the last couple days in the desert, and it seems to fool around with the cells and the electricity, and my clocks were slow because of it. I didn't notice when they came back on. They were like 10 minutes off. So my apologies to all of you and to Juan, who's ready to wring my neck, I'm quite certain. Today, I am going to continue what we started a couple of weeks ago, what to do after 70. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from this. People who go back and listen later in the day and don't text me or call me right away. They're saying they don't even know how to start. What should they do to have interest in their life? So I thought I'd better expand on this topic. You know, I've done a lot of different things in my life. If you've ever read my bio that's up on Google and different places like that, you'll see I've been a stewardess, I've been a model, I was a publisher. I started that when my former husband bought a magazine when I was in my late 40s. That's not being a young person and starting a business. And after that, I sold the publishing company and married my hopefully last husband. I've had 3 husbands. He's the best. I'm trying to keep him around. And I was bored being at home. What was I going to do? So at the age of 64, I was invited to be on a podcast as a guest. And I thought, oh, well, I could do this. So I signed on and I was podcasting for a company called Universal Podcasting. And it's not Universal Studios or something. That they were just lucky that they got that name. But I podcast with them for a while. And then I went to Talk4Media. And I've been here for 14 years. So from age 64 until now, I've still started and keep creating different things that are interesting to me. I did a skincare company called La Contessa Skincare, but my heart is here in the podcasting and trying to show you all that no matter what your age is, you can do whatever you want, and you should, because that brings happiness as we're approaching our 100-year-old birthdays. I mean, we have a lot of years to go, you know. We're in our 70s, 60s, and 70s, most of us, a few in the 80s. We still have 20 to 30 to 40 years to go. And I have to tell you something. I have women in my family that have lived a long time on both sides of my family. One of them was a great-grandmother. Louis, do me a favor, please, and give me that painting in the hallway that my grandma did.
Okay.
I want to show this to you on screen today. I should have been more prepared, but talking about people creating and doing things when they're older, my great-grandma lived to be well into her hundreds before she passed away. And when she was in her late 80s and 90s, she started painting just like a famous person called Grandma Moses. Here is an oil painting of what she did when she first started painting. This is her old home in Indiana. Now, I think it's pretty darn good because it's not supposed to be a Rembrandt, and it's not even supposed to be a Van Gogh or a Grandma Moses. She's a little different. And that kept her happy forever. And she lived with us, with my other grandmother who raised me and my brother. And she not only did the painting, but she told us wonderful, marvelous stories. And she taught me how to play solitaire. She was a great solitaire player. And then I had another grandmother who was my mother's mother. My great grandma was on my father's side. My grandma that I'm speaking about was on my father's side, grandma. And she, I'm skipping over one grandma, the grandma who took care of my mother once she had polio. That was her mother. And she wanted to bring some extra cash in, and she was a beautiful seamstress. And she didn't use a sewing machine. She would cut her fabrics out or hems when somebody wanted it shorter or something. She did everything by hand, and they were all beautiful. And I still have 2 quilts that she made all by hand. Back in the day, one has little boys' figures on it all over, and one has little girls representing me and my brother. So today, I want you to remember, because every moment after 70 is filled with purpose, passion, and possibility. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do to make your life fuller? You know, you have to decide where and how you're going to live. You might lose a spouse, you might lose your good friends. And by the way, I lost a very dear and good friend, Donna, last night. I saw the message on Facebook. She passed away yesterday. She'd been in hospice at home, and she was in her 80s and lived a wonderful, marvelous life. But now she's with her husband, Chase, and in heaven. So pardon me for acknowledging her, but I'm going to miss her deeply. She'll always be in my heart. This is what happens when you get older. You know, I talk a lot about keeping yourself active and eating correctly and doing the right supplements and things like that. And I also talk about how you fill your hours in your day. You don't need to chase youth. You don't need to get facelift after facelift or Botox after Botox. There is a movement in Hollywood now, and I'm sure you've all seen it on Facebook or the internet on X or some other places. I don't know. I don't know what you look at on the internet, but almost everybody does use social media these days. So you'll see that these women are no longer filling your faces full of Botox. And I personally have decided to do the same, but I don't think you can. There's nothing wrong with getting rid of a few wrinkles or if you have a problem. Now, this eye is droopy. I don't know why. God made it droopy, I guess. So I do occasionally put a little Botox in here. But you can see I have wrinkles. I don't like them, but I don't hate them so much that I'm going to go under an anesthetic and have a facelift. We are older. I'm 78. I've done a lot in my life. I'm thrilled with my life. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have had the life I had. But I had a lot of problems in life too. And as I'm trying to adjust my camera here, you need to think about what you're going to do in the next few years. And you're going to have them, you know. It's not that you're not going to have any extra years because you're here and you're in good health, unless you're in the hospital and ill and in an assisted living home, which in many cases, because of your health, you might have to be in an assisted living home. But it's my feeling that you should live independently as much as you can. You know, there's interesting things going on in social media too, where they have retirement houses and a bunch of friends get together and they buy the house and they choose their bedrooms and their bathrooms and put everything together, and it's like a big happy family. You need to be really good friends to do something like this. These people are all very active. I think it's called Retirement Home. You can look it up on social media, on Facebook. It could have another name. I can't remember. But they're out there making reels and stories for Facebook, and they're a riot. There seems to be 3 women and 2 men, I think, left with these people. They lost a dear friend recently. So they get out there, they sing, they dance, they go on little trips around town together and other places. You need to have interaction with people. So I want you to think about your life that's coming up, and you can think about some of the people who have started over and added new ventures to their lives. It's never too late. You could embrace new goals and ideas no matter what your age is. I just told you at 64, I started podcasting. And I'm keeping it up and I'm adding things to it. Now I'm doing a different group that you want to join. You want to look at my newsletter when I start to publish it. You might want to go on retreats with me. I want to do some traveling with friends and spouses, if your spouses are still with you. I don't think it's good to isolate, but if you've been isolating all of your life, it's not isolation. It's living and enjoying your solitude and doing what you like to do, reading good books till the early morning hours instead of going to sleep at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Maybe that's what you like to do. Maybe you like to cook for yourself. Maybe you like to have peace and quiet after having so many people around you all the time. Or maybe that's where you sit down and you write and you think about what you do want to do with your next years. Maybe it's planning a big trip. I think also that you need to talk about what your purpose is in life. I think after you reach a certain age, you redefine what you want to do. My goal is get these new businesses up and running, because I think I still have a lot of things I want to contribute to you and show you how to start a business at this age. But I also think that it's a challenge to learn new things. I'll tell you, I don't know about artificial intelligence, AI. I'm not sure about everything being owned by Meta now. Everything's different and it changes every day. If you think this is different, turn on the television and find out how many studios in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry are looking to be sold or looking to be merged or bought. M&A time, baby. It's coming up. These people will not be the same ever again. These studios and shows, and what are they going to do with the many people that depend on Hollywood here in California? It doesn't just affect the CEOs and the producers and directors. This is going to be getting rid of some of the people in the props, makeup, wardrobe, all over. This is our biggest industry. It used to be aerospace. I think they've traded spaces now on the rankings. But look, we're having to build new airplanes too because of the war. And how much of it is built? The different little pieces of them are done by AI. So if you're going to think about having a new career, if I were you, I would learn to use AI. One of the easiest ones to use is ChatGPT. They'll tell you how to do it. You can do it for free to test it out. It's kind of fun. I have a friend who the other day was fooling around, and all of these stories come out about President Trump, and people hate him so much. And he was looking up to see if he could be the Antichrist. He was joking around. He doesn't think that. He believes in God, Christianity. But you can look up all sorts of things on it, and they'll tell you information on it. I joined ChatGPT sometime last year, whenever it first came out. I can't remember if it's a year or 2 years old. I just wanted to know what it was, and I wasn't sure how to use it or anything else, so I haven't used it. But I will, especially starting these new businesses. So maybe you want to write your own book. Did you ever think about that? Maybe you have a romance novel in your head. Maybe you have detective stories or war stories, whatever you have. Why don't you sit down and kind of write a little outline about it and see what comes out? You could do it. And maybe you don't want to publish it. Maybe you just want to show it to your family. That is a wonderful thing to leave different people in your family, your grandchildren, cousins, aunts, and uncles that are your same age or a little younger than you. That would be a wonderful thing to leave them. Or you might make a video with everything that has happened in your life and send that to everybody, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and all. They'd love to learn about that. In my generation, we have people that still came across the country in covered wagons to get to California. Can you believe that? Or they came around the Horn on a boat. That's pretty interesting. We watched the first man on the moon. This is a generation that has experienced hundreds of remarkable events in our life. And I think you should share it and don't let the intricate details of them disappear. I think you're going to find out that once you're exploring things and looking up things, you can do it on the internet too. Besides, we don't have encyclopedias, at least I don't think we do anymore, where they would come and bring them to your doorstep and you'd get a new one every year about what had happened. I got those for my kids. Whew, were they happy when they got their first computer and they could look things up on the computer. An interesting thing was when my children got their first computers, I was divorced and married to my second husband, and I wasn't working at the time outside the home. So I asked my current husband and my children's father to please help me buy a computer so that they could learn those skills. And they both said no. They were both dumb because they said they wouldn't last and they would never be using computers later on in their life. Well, shame on them. I went and bought it myself. I'm always buying things like that to help my kids. That's what you're supposed to do with your children when they're growing up. Now, I don't know what you have to do, but in most schools, you do have to have a tablet or a computer. And I think most school systems do provide those for people. But there's still a big area of the United States that don't have access to cell phones and computers and things like that. They can't reach the internet and all. And the current administration is working on things like that, and Elon Musk is working on it. He gets his Starship up there, or whatever it's called, Starlink, and gets that up there, and he's brought all of that to people in foreign countries and everywhere. It's a remarkable thing. So that's how everything changes, and you should be curious and learning and exploring things, and you'll make yourself happier with yourself because you're not just learning something, but you have something to share at a cocktail party about the last person to go up to the Antarctic and walk on the ice and what they learned up there, or the people that have stayed up there for many years doing things. Get into it. Learn something new. Be the toast of the cocktail party, telling everybody what you learned about the latest challenge to walk on Mars. So remember, you're not done yet. You're different. You want to do things that are going to make you interesting and interest you. Think of something you always wanted to do. Something you had to put on hold for decades because you were newly married, you wanted to build a family, you had children to raise, you had one child or many children, you had your own children, you adopted children, you paid attention to being the homemaker and the major duomo of your family. Now, I'm speaking mostly to the women here. Now is the time, and it's not too late, to put down on a piece of paper what some of your goals are that you didn't complete when you were younger. Maybe you started college and then met the love of your life in college and decided you couldn't finish college. You wanted to get married and have babies, build a family. So maybe it's time to go back to school. You know, you could start at a junior college, or you could go to a university. You could apply to all of them, tell them your age, tell them your experience, tell them the charities that you supported and the philanthropic endeavors of other things, maybe not just charities to help hospitals and science projects and things like that, but maybe the culture, the symphonies, the ballets. They're all having a hard time raising money. And maybe you can tell people how you did it in your day and help them to raise money. Maybe you want to become more political. Yeah, I'm opening the door to say something to you that I think is just proof that the mainstream media lies, doesn't do their research. Now, that's either the researchers that work for them, the host, or it's the hosts that do their own research. You have to have heard about President Trump building the new ballroom at the White House on the east end of the White House. Now, this is a building that has been used many years, and it was literally falling apart. So President Trump has gone in there and he's built a ballroom. He's also covered over the rose garden grass with this beautiful marble. He's building it. It sounds frivolous to people who've never been to a ball or a large dance, but that's your problem. Don't you remember dancing in the gym at high school? Okay, there you go. Well, there was no place large enough to do that. Sometimes when he had these big dinners for the Senate, the Congress, you couldn't fit them in. So they would have to tent the rose garden. But of course, the rain and the water still got the floor so muddy and dirty that you'd ruin your shoes, your chair would get stuck in the mud. It was a mess. Now, most other countries because they're so much older than us, have big, towering, beautiful castles, homes, what have you. Take a look at the UK, at England, and their different castles and the big ballrooms they have. And that's because they invited leaders from other countries. They invited the knights in shining armor and the ladies in waiting and excuse me, all those people. And they weren't necessarily dancing around. They could be, because who doesn't like to have a beautiful dance with your partner? But they had rows of tables where people could interact and have dining experiences with each other and trade ideas for how the world was evolving. We didn't have that. And you will notice also that he's changed the Oval Office. But right now I'm speaking to the new ballroom. Do you know this man, our president, has never taken a dime in salary for being president, not in 2016 and not now. And he has paid for many renovations. He is paying the entire cost of the new ballroom facilities. Why do these other media people lie and say it's taxpayer money? It is not taxpayer money. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing to have these inferior media people criticize all the time of what he's doing. You don't even know. If you look up the history of President Trump, you'll see that he has given money to individuals who are in need. Ask one of the ladies who ran for Miss Universe. He's taken on the expenses of her child. She passed away from cancer, and he promised her he would always financially support this child of hers so she could go to college and everything else that her mother could no longer provide since she passed away. So that's just a little thing. One time somebody stopped and helped change the tire on one of his cars when he was in the car with the driver, and the driver, I don't know, he needed help. So this man stopped and helped them change the tire. And President Trump asked for his name and address, and he went and paid off the mortgage of his house as a thank you. So don't give me any more of your blankety blank blank lies on national television and say that this new part of the White House, the ballroom, is being paid with your money. It's not. It is not tax money. It is Trump money. And that's how much he thinks of the United States of America and her citizens. Okay, let's get off that, because I could go on and on all the time about what's going on in our country. So here is something I want you to do. I want you to write that down, what you would like to complete that you never were able to complete. And then take it out every day, maybe in the morning after you practice your gratitude and your exercising and all, and write down some more ideas about it, or maybe a new one popped up in your head. See what's going on. So if you've started something in your later life and you're single, I want, just as I told you, I started podcasting when I was 64. I want to tell you about some other people that you might recognize the names. You can look them up at a site like an encyclopedia site, search them on Safari or Google or DuckDuckGo. Okay, let's talk about who has written books or something. How about Toni Morrison? She was in her 80s when she started writing her poetry and different things like that. And she kept going into her 80s doing it. Look, she even won a I think it was a Pulitzer Prize for one of her wonderful poems and books. Then everybody who's of a certain age remembers the show Little House on the Prairie on television. But before that, it was books that were written by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And she was 68 when she started that series. Those are two people that are amazing. And Grandma Moses, we spoke about, and she was in her 70s. And my great grandma was much older than that when she did her first painting that we showed you today. And then there are entrepreneurs who you will take note of that started things that you must be very familiar with. In the food business, it's pretty amazing. There's Colonel Sanders with his chicken, and there was Famous Amos with his chocolate chip cookies. Unfortunately, both those people were bought out and had bad advice because they're not the ones who made the millions of dollars, but they had the gumption and the desire and the goals to start businesses that they had always wanted to do. And they were successful and they live on in history. And what a wonderful tribute that is to everyone. We don't want to forget Vera Wang, who became a premier fashion designer. She started out designing things like wedding gowns and didn't put too much high pricey things on it until she realized these women were willing to pay just about anything for her beautiful designs. And she since then expanded her line, and she's going strong. And I think she's getting close to my age. A beautiful age. And then there's the entertainers. Remember Betty White? She passed away just before her 100th birthday, and she was still a go-get-'em gal. She did funny routines with people. She had her own shows. She had a loving husband that she just mourned for the rest of her life. Tony Bennett, 94, still recorded albums. He recorded albums late in life with Lady Gaga. People of all ages love him. What if you always wanted a singing career? You could do it. You probably sing around the house now or in the church choir or something like that. Why don't you look into recording something in a video? Or a lot of places have local studios where you can go in and somebody will help you record a song. And then you could give it to your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I recorded this for you. And here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus. Something like that would be so much fun to do. Or you can give a copy to all of your friends. That would be great. Talk about leaders. There are leaders in the country who really didn't start leading until they were much older. There was Nelson Mandela. He was in prison and he still wanted to rule the country, and it's a good thing he did because he saved it, South Africa. But he was I think he was in his late 50s or something when they put him in jail, and he was in jail a long time, but he never gave up that dream. And look what he accomplished. Look at that. One of mine that I didn't even know anything about her until Elon Musk came along, and he's her son, May Musk. She had all these kids and she needed to support them. So she went out, and now she's 75 years old, but she put her kids through school and everything else, and she wondered how she was going to take care of them. And she modeled. Oh, and I know the thing I didn't know anything about. She modeled, and she's this tall, stately woman with grayish white hair and beautiful, and kept her figure, and she moves around all the time. She's invited everywhere. She's congenial and entertaining. But the other part of her started investigating nutrition and how to stay healthy. And she's got that going on the side. It's just an amazing thing what people can do. So I think you should remember age doesn't have an expiration date. It has a revelation age. I can't read my own notes to tell you. I better take a handwriting class is what I better take so I can keep my notes straight. Or I could type them up on the computer and maybe read them better. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. And do you know that some of these side hustles that you're thinking about starting could actually become profitable? There are lots of people out there that are podcasting that have decided to set little groups up and make money that way. It's not an easy thing to do. So don't let me make you think it is. You need somebody like Talk4Media to help you. Yeah, I know you can go buy a microphone and this and that and everything else, but then you have to post them yourself. Or don't get into something that you don't know how to do it. Get help, and you'll be more encouraged and you'll have a happier time. Well, you might want to plan a dream trip. How about you never got to travel because you couldn't leave those kids at home, or you couldn't afford a nanny, or you couldn't afford it, period. What about if you could afford it? And what about if you like to learn how to travel by yourself and venture out and see the pyramids along the Nile, if they're still letting you do that? I do know some people went with lots of security out there to see them, or see the pyramids in Mexico, closer to home. Different ethnicities, but very similar. Maybe you just want to go chill out someplace. Maybe you want to go on a golf trip. Maybe you want to go someplace to see the Wimbledon and go to England to watch that beautiful tennis match. Maybe you just want to go to the beach and have beach days, or go to the mountains and do some hiking. Travel anywhere and everywhere. And with one of the things I'm adding to my business is trips for people, whether you want to go single or with a small group. And they will be more luxury trips, but they could be hiking trips and river rafting with the finest. Stay tuned. I'm putting a great package together for all of you. You're going to be very excited. Now, I'm in a new area. We moved here 2 years ago to the desert of California, and I have not gotten involved in any political party clubs or philanthropic or charity for hospitals or anything like that yet. But I certainly did my share when I was younger, even when my kids were in school and I was working, and I found the time to do it. And I will never forget working for this charity in Los Angeles that helped little children get wardrobes for school to start, because many of them were Mexicans that came across our border and were working as housekeepers and gardeners and things like that when this was possible to do. But there weren't thousands of people coming over. So this is a totally different thing that I'm talking about. It's not the cartels bringing in drugs. These were people who wanted to become citizens of the United States, and they had children, but they didn't have a lot of money. So this organization that I belong to would do Operation School Bell, where these children would come in and we would give them everything from underwear to jeans, dresses, tops, coats, sweaters, you name it, pajamas, they got it. I'll never forget, not many of the women spoke any Spanish, and I do speak un poquito. Many of these little children had never seen underwear, and this one little girl came up to me and she was crying, and so I spoke to her in Spanish and asked her what was wrong. She said she didn't know how to put these on, and she had put them on over a pair of shorts, play shorts, underneath her new school dress. So I helped her learn about that, and then of course we gave them hygiene kits and things like that. I also belonged to something called the Orphanage Guild, where you would adopt to take extra help of, not adopt to live in your home, not to become part of your family. But that's what we called it, and we would get one of the girls. This was a girls' place, pretty far from Los Angeles, but we supported it. It was a Catholic organization, and I'm not Catholic, but they took me in to be part of this organization. And we would take them out, a bunch of the girls with a bunch of the volunteers. We'd take them to pizza parties way back then. We would have one of our members donate their swimming pool and backyard, and we have picnics and swimming things. I can tell you that those gave me such happiness, helping these people and giving them just a little bit of happiness for a day or some new clothes to go to school and not be laughed at. It's a wonderful feeling. So if you've never had the time to do that, it's time maybe you picked everything up and do some volunteer work, and you're going to find out it changes your life for the better. You can even combine your travel with like a mission trip to some countries. My daughter did that when she was in nursing school. And she was awarded a medal for going down there in South America where there were some problems. And she helped out with that. She still talks about it. Giving and helping people makes your heart go pitter patter, and that makes you live longer. So that's what I have to say to you today. And I do want to tell you, I am expanding my business because I do have some extra time and I want to be more helpful to you. And boy, it was a long time that I was grieving and mourning for my son who took his life nearly 5 years ago today. And it just absolutely wiped me out mentally and physically. I'm now just recovering. It took a long time. No, I still miss him and think of him every single day. And no, it wasn't drugs. I just want to make that clear. So I now am trying to pick up and redo everything. That's why I relaunched Judith Mancini Today. That's why I retired Judith Mancini Today a few months ago, and now have just lifted it back up. I think, what have we been doing? A month, 2 months now? I can't remember. And I'm adding things. I'm adding a newsletter, which will be going more in depth for your health. I will, when I tell you something about your diet and what you should and shouldn't be eating, I will go more in depth in the newsletter than I can do on a podcast. I'm going to add travel to that. I'm going to add some different meetings that would be for small groups, like maybe 10 people, and larger groups. We'll see what happens with all of that. All on the basis of Judith Mancini Today, because you know what? Every day you're evolving and every day you're changing. And I believe while I'm changing, I should be helping people because that's what makes me happy. The other thing I have done, and I think you may have heard my friend take over my show a few shows ago. Actually, I think it was the number one first show I did as I was relaunching. And I have thanked her profusely for doing that. She did a great job. I have become a brand partner with this wonderful company called LifeWave. And I am building a business with that also. It's scrolling across the Cryon below. That's my email address that you can get on there. You can get on there to my site on LifeWave's page. These are small patches. They're about the size of this, a little bigger than a quarter. It's phototherapy. Excuse me. It's phototherapy. And it brings the light into your body because your body is full of light, and it interacts with the light in your body, and it goes to your cells. It goes to your stem cells that take care of these different things. Your body is full of stem cells. And by the age of about 25, you start losing your good stem cells. They stop operating properly. So if you get something that you need help with, maybe you get, I don't know, I can't even think of anything. They're not a cure thing. They're a thing to stimulate your stem cells and help you. Now, the X39 is their premier patch. And that is for your overall being. I use it every single day. And just from using that patch, my wrinkles are not like they used to be. Yeah, I have wrinkles, but as you get older, you get all these fine lines here, out here on your cheeks and everything. They're almost gone because now my stem cells are being stimulated and I feel better. I feel healthier. They're remarkable. There's one that helps you cut down your appetite so you don't be grabbing everything on the counter to eat. There's one Aeon, Aeon, that really helped me get over my grieving for my son. It just makes you feel better. It calms you. It calms your stress. And those are your stress cells that need to be calmed down. So if you're interested, go to www.lifewave.com/Judith Mancini, and you can see there's different articles. And as an added bonus, I may be posting some other people's posts and testimonials about what they do. So watch for that. Lots of good things are happening. If something good is happening to you, you can also drop me a note at www.lifewave.com/Judith Mancini. Or I'm going to do this, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to. You could reach me via email at judithmancini.com. I once had an email for Judith Mancini today, but somehow it disappeared off my computer and everywhere, and GoDaddy hasn't found it. So we're going to work on that. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I apologize for being late. Don't forget to dream tomorrow and live today. Thank you all.